Yeah, if I had this conversation with myself today, I would have warned my older self to not buy this company because it had a lot of red flags.
Kevin Behunin, I want to say that correctly.
That's right.
Pride Security, filmmaker, investor. You do a bunch of things. Very impressed, and I can't thank you enough for coming to Seal Beach today from Flagstaff, Arizona, to share a lot of your information. Let's talk about you, if you don't mind. Give me a little bit of your background, because here's the honest deal. Why would you get into security?
Yeah, it was an accident. It was. So, thanks for having me on. Pride Security became Priority One Security on January 1st of this year. We went through a rebrand, mostly because of some of the regulations around having an agency license in the state of Arizona. So we opted to go ahead and rebrand this year. We're excited about it. Our employees are excited about it. Our clients are excited about it. So we have enjoyed the rebranding process, as uncomfortable as it might be, and the cost to buy new uniforms and all of those things. But we're excited for the new name and where we're headed. And so your original question was?
You're all in. How in the hell did you get into the security business? I mean, you're an investment guy. You do films. I'm missing it. You're a tech guy, right? You're an MBA. You've got all this stuff going. And then somebody says, hey, how about a taco truck? No, I'd rather get into the security business. I mean, was that a lesson?
I've learned a lot. I don't know if I would say it was a lesson, but I will say this. I worked in technology consulting, and when COVID happened, I wasn't traveling anymore. I was working with private equity firms through my consulting firm to help private equity acquire companies. And then that all stopped. I wasn't traveling anymore. I was sitting at home and I was scrolling on my social media feed, and this individual by the name of Cody Sanchez shows up in my feed. And she started talking about acquisition entrepreneurship, meaning buying businesses that are cash flowing so that you can succeed right away. And I thought to myself, if I can help private equity do this, I can do this because I know the playbook to get there. So I started looking for businesses to buy. I stumbled upon this guard business and started the conversation with the broker to arrive at a deal. Ultimately, we cemented a deal in March of 2023. And that's how I landed in the security guard space. I had a steep learning curve right away. I had a lot to learn about this industry that I knew nothing about. I come from tech. I spent my time working in the technology industry, managing IT departments for household names of companies. And so to pivot and learn that guard world was challenging for me. I had a lot of sleepless nights in the beginning.
Yeah, what was the biggest shock?
The biggest shock was really around employee engagement and employee commitment and how quickly you can lose a client. For instance, it takes maybe up to 12 or 13 months to acquire a client because you have to work with them long enough to get through their cycle of when they might be hiring a new guard firm. But you can lose it very quickly. All it takes is one individual who may fall asleep on shift, maybe even unintentionally. You can lose a contract that quick in one night.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, huh? That's why I always joke about the guard business. So you're a guy with an MBA. The reason why a lot of people get in the security business is because you don't have any schooling backgrounds. You're not smart enough not to do it. I say that jokingly, but yeah, you're right. It's amazing, huh? So you really have to, as you could tell, you really have to have that relationship with that client because that stuff is going to happen all the time.
Yeah.
It's very hard to get away from.
Yeah, and one of the things that I tell my clients is that if you catch any one of my employees, you can go ahead and fire them for me because that's what's going to happen now. I won't tolerate that kind of behavior while someone's on shift. And as primarily overnight shifts, it's difficult to stay awake overnight by yourself doing some patrol. It's challenging.
Yeah, because there are a lot of them aren't smart enough to go home and say, hey, I need to work tonight. I think I'll get a good 8 hours of sleep. They think they could do it on 2, or the girlfriend says, let's go to Disneyland and wash the car. And then they think, oh, that's okay, I'll just sleep tonight. And that's what really happens.
Yeah,
sometimes.
It's tough to live on the other side of the clock, for sure.
Yeah, we're not built that way. I get it. It's all part of the thing. So a little bit about what I really want people to understand. When you went to buy the business, how hard was that for you to buy the business? In other words, just getting through that process. Do you think, oh, this is going to be an easy transition? I'll come in, I'll be able to coach this guy and tell him what it's like. You're dealing with a whole different market, especially mid to level. I'm not talking about a $10 million company. What was this company worth that you were buying in the beginning? You don't have to share numbers, by the way. Don't say anything you don't want to say, but just.
Sure. So the first thing you ask about is the complexity of the purchase. Fortunately for me, I had a lot of reps on that particular goal. I spent all my time helping private equity acquire businesses. So I knew what the process looked like. So I knew I needed to rinse and repeat that process with my target company. In this particular case, it was this guard company. When I was working in consulting for private equity, these individual organizations were doing north of $100 million a year in revenue. So to look at a business at this size and scale, it was a fraction of the type of deal that I would normally work on. This business was doing around $1 million a year in revenue. And so for me, it was really taking a look at profit and loss statements, the balance sheet, understanding if there was uniforms in place. Was there an office in place? Did they have any standard operating procedures? Did they have a handbook? Did they have just what I call the minimum point of entry, right? This is just mandatory minimum just to run your business. And in many cases, I looked at several businesses. In many cases, those items didn't even exist.
Yep.
Rarely did they have a very, we'll say, cohesive messaging around their brand and around who they are, their corporate culture. It didn't exist. At that scale, it's difficult to have brand identity and things like that.
Yeah, it's true. That really is the entry. Yeah, that really is the industry. So you took this business. Was it primarily more? What kind of business was it? Government contracts? Small? I imagine just smaller contracts, right? Apartments, HOAs, commercial, typical.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If I had this conversation with myself today, of my individual a couple of years ago, I would have warned my older self to not buy this company because it had a lot of red flags. Number one, they only had one customer, one real customer. They did business with 3 customers, but they only had one. That was their bread and butter. It produced greater than 80% of their revenue. That is a significant key client risk, right? If that client decides to bail, you have no business. It doesn't exist. So that, to me, I would warn myself from 2 years ago, be careful about businesses that only have one client that they work with on a regular basis. Now, that client is still with me today, and they are a significant part of who we are.
So what you're telling me, you went chips all in on this one.
I did. So for me, I was actually sharing this with Ed earlier, was that as I've made pivots in my career, when I went from running day-to-day IT operations for organizations into consulting, I had to go all chips in. I couldn't look back. I needed to move forward and learn what was ahead of me. I couldn't return to the old way of doing things. I simply needed to embrace all of the challenges that come along with moving from day-to-day IT operational work into the world of consulting and working with clients. Similarly, when I left consulting and decided to go into ownership through acquisition, I had to go all chips in. I couldn't look back. The only path was forward, and I just had to learn and slog through all of the challenges that come along with owning a business.
What's the first thing you did?
At what point?
When you bought the business and went in outside of introducing, there's a new daddy in town, which had to be really difficult, right? Because they had a stepdad at home, obviously, right? Stepdad business. And then you're going to come in and run the business, and there's a shock value there. So imagine you had a lot of churn in the beginning, people that didn't want to play or just, okay, we're in, and test you out to see how far they could go.
So one of the first things I did was I had a conference call with my entire team, and I just said, hey, here's who I am. The previous owner is riding off into the sunset into retirement. And so I'm the new owner. This is my number. This is how you get a hold of me. And this is what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to grow the business. This is my vision. And this is how I want us to win and succeed. And after that call was over, I had one resignation. And then the following week, we had a significant stumble with the client we still have today. We started losing sites that we previously had contracts with. And the reason was we didn't have any accountability to our client on what the guards were doing during the evening. So immediately I instituted accountability software so that we could be accountable to our client and say, hey, we are there, we are patrolling, we are inspecting throughout the night. And I had more churn. I had 2 people quit because now they had to be accountable for that shift, that they were actually doing something while they were there. So I immediately was faced with some hiring challenges to keep the business operational. I didn't want unmanned posts, anything like that. So there was some initial challenges around there's a new sheriff in town, around we're now going to be accountable to our client. And it took some time, probably 90 days of just helping the staff understand that there's a cultural shift in this organization for the better to our client. And if you're not interested in that, then it's time for you to go look for another job. It was difficult.
Yeah, most businesses you buy also. Tell me about the nightmare as far as his books. Was everything clean? Was he billing appropriately? Did he say he had what he really had? Or did that become a shock too? Because some people get pretty unethical.
This part of the messaging, I'll just say right now, we have a settlement agreement, so I don't know how much will make it into the actual.
Oh, yeah. Only do what you can say.
But here's the story. The individual claimed that there was $1.5 million a year in revenue. At close, the business only had roughly $600,000 a year in revenue. He backed up his $1.5 million in revenue with bank statements. It was true. He did have $1.5 million in revenue. What he failed to disclose was that he lost half of the business in the final probably 5 or 6 weeks of his ownership. He failed to disclose that the business was shrinking because of a failure to perform. So when I discovered this, I learned that now the organization was half the size. I learned that there were other challenges with employment and overtime not being paid, lots of very, we'll say, legal challenges around the way that he chose to operate the business. And so I contacted him and I let him know that I see what he's doing and that I challenged him to take the business back because the business I bought was not the business I received. And he refused. He believed that he was in the right because he had a signed contract with me and all this, that, and the other. And so I let him know that if he doesn't take the business back, we're going to have to basically duke it out in court because we no longer were in agreement on what the business was.
Yep. Let me ask you, how long was the initial, from the contact to the sale, how long was that?
Initial contact to sell?
Yeah.
Less than 60 days.
Really? Yeah. And then within that 60-day period, did he lose it within that time frame, or was it further back that he lost it and he just didn't disclose?
No, his December of 2022 bank statements proved that he still had all of the business.
I've seen this and heard this, but it's amazing when owners, they're at that point and they get tired and then they want to sell. It's really that they're tired and they want to sell. They want to get out, they want to escape, and then when they think they're there, they don't really understand. They're not business guys. And then they go on a hiatus. Oh, the business is going to sell. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to go through the motions. It'll be sold next week. It'll be sold next week. And let me ask you, how many phone calls did you get from, hey, are we done yet? When am I going to get my check? Is that coming? Did you hear any of that?
Yeah, so we can talk about that. So he did not call me specifically looking for the check or if we had closed yet. All of that conversation happened through the broker.
Okay.
However, what I've observed is that when businesses go up for sale and the seller has arrived at a point that they are no longer interested in running their business because it's now for sale, what they don't realize is that has significant impacts on the sale price of that business. If they no longer care and feed for that business, if they no longer care about client acquisition and revenue growth, that business is shrinking immediately because the business got to where it was because of the involvement of the owner. Whatever that was, whether it was strategic or hands-on, it doesn't matter. That effort from the owner is how it got to that point. So when they put it up for sale and then they sit back in their chair and just wait for someone to come by, it's ultimately going to shrink. You have to work the business day in and day out until the deal is inked. It just has to be that way.
So Kevin, here's a question for you. And I come through this, or this happens to me all the time. Everybody wants to know. No, they don't want to know. They just assume that their business is worth all this money. They don't have a business background. They go, I'm going to sell my business. So they think it's worth a 10-time multiple, 8-time multiple, and then they've got swap meet contracts and a few apartments. They don't understand the word retention and long-term and government contracts and what really the buyer is really interested, meaning even getting started with a broker. Do me a favor, tell everybody the truth, how it works. Let's just say $5 million. It's a $5 million business to start with there. Tell me what you think.
Okay, sounds good. So I'll preface the answer to that question with this. 1 in 11 businesses that are up for sale, whether it's through a broker or unofficially, 1 in 11 will sell in a 12-month period. And what that means for the general population, what this means to investors, what this means to buyers, is that it is truly a buyer's market. The reason why it's a buyer's market is because most of the small businesses that are owned here in America, they are owned primarily by the baby boomer generation. What's happening is baby boomers are retiring at an alarming rate right now. And those small business owners are looking to offload that business because their children are no longer interested in what mom or dad did for their business. So they sit on the market for a long time, 12 to 18 months. If you're lucky, it's sold in less than 2 years. So pricing. If a business is doing roughly $5 million a year in revenue, and assuming that you generate a 10 or 15% profit, the sticker price for, and this is, I'm talking about retail price right now, the sticker retail price for a business that does $5 million a year and maybe does 10% net cash flow is going to be at most 3 times the annual cash flow. So if you have $5 million, you generate $500,000 a year in net cash. Times 3 means 1.5 million is the absolute maximum sticker price you will see in the marketplace for a business that provides standard professional services. And beyond that, if that company owns some material equipment that has value, that's also included in the price. You may have $100,000 worth of equipment or a fleet of vehicles. That will increase the price some. But the reality is, in the guard space, that this is a professional services organization with a semi-skilled set of labor. And what that means is that business at $5 million in revenue is only worth about 1.5 to 3 times on the high side its annual cash flow. Now, in the world of bio life sciences, technology, and the like, those multipliers are different. And the reason why is because of the level of effort required to get that product to market. So it's a harsh pill for most people to swallow when they learn what their business is actually worth.
Okay, if we can later, what I'd love to be able to do is I want to put together a webinar and have you in again, bring some people on the call to have that question, because the majority of people I'm doing is 3 to 5, and a lot of them say, "Oh, I'm 3 million, I want to sell." Talk about when I heard you talk to Ed about this. You asked him, "What's your age?" Go through that scenario with him. I thought that was so well done.
So I'll share a couple of thoughts. So one is going to be around revenue, and then the other will be around your exit strategy. And that answer will be a little bit longer. So I need to back up. My brain just went blank.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to talk about, I want to talk about 2 separate items. One of them is around revenue and comfort. And then the next one is around exit. So revenue and comfort. What is observed in the marketplace, and this crosses many industries, but when a business gets between $3 to $5 million a year in revenue, what happens is that owner becomes comfortable because now he has employees to handle certain functions of the business, and so he's able to relax. He's able to get comfortable and still collect a paycheck and still be profitable. The challenge is this. He gets too comfortable and is no longer focused on growing his product or service in the marketplace. What does that mean? That means the profits go down and he is heading for unemployment because he doesn't care and nurture for his business anymore. Now, we discover that individuals that may be in this $3 to $5 million revenue space may also be approaching retirement. So the question around what does that mean or how do the numbers work is to think about your retirement number. Most individuals in America know or should have a relatively good idea on what it will take to retire. And the rule of thumb for that is, if I retired today, how much do I need to pay my mortgage, my car payment, my utilities, all of those kinds of things. And the financial markets or the financial folks will tell you it's roughly 80% of what you make today on an annual basis. Roughly 80% is what you need to maintain your lifestyle in retirement. So if an individual wants to sell their business, they're approaching retirement, they need to think about what is that retirement number. For everybody, that's different because everybody's personal investment portfolio is going to look different. What number it works for Ed is different than what number works for Kevin, which is different than what works for Chris. We all have different liabilities in our life. How many mortgages do you have? How many car payments do you have versus how many do I have? All of those things come into play. And so when we consider someone's exit out of their business, we need to look at that number so that we can help them get to their retirement number or exit number so that they can enjoy retirement and still be able to put food on the table and keep the roof over their head so they're not living in a tent eating Alpo.
Yep. Champagne taste and beer income.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that math is not terribly difficult. It's just going to be unique to each individual. And so I won't share Ed's secrets about how much money he wants to sit on his throne, but what we were able to do with Ed in that brief conversation was identify the number that he needs to get to comfortably in order to have a retirement that's going to be sustainable for him throughout the rest of his life. And based on that number, we worked backwards. And so we said, okay, in order for you to retire, you need to sell your business for X amount. And in order to sell your business for X amount, you need to have your business creating this much revenue. And so we've had a talk today. He's got some ideas in mind on how he wants to get there now. And he's also got a timeline. He says, I want to retire in 5 years. Well, now he knows over the next 5 years, I need to bring my business up to this level of revenue so that when I exit, I can sell it for X amount of dollars, which then gives him the retirement number that he's looking for.
Yeah. It was a fantastic discussion that you had with him, and I'm glad we were able to recap that here because this is really valuable to the listeners. And from what I'm doing today is not only teaching them how to keep business and grow their business and help them with operations. This fits in perfect. You being a part of this, being able to share that, and maybe have people that want to come in, that want to sell, that maybe want to sit down, consult, and take the ride and with an exit plan, kind of like having your own personal consultant / financial advisor, security, the whole thing, all in one package. We've talked about it.
Yeah.
We'll get in members. We'll talk more, of course, but it was so well done. It just fits the model.
Yeah, something that I have to learn from the guard industry is still how to do guard stuff. I've only been at it for 2 years. I have a lot to learn, and I have a wealth of knowledge that comes from the world of business and finance and technology that I can share with the community, and we can find synergies.
Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer, it really is. And I'm super excited, especially with the new product with Vision, and then all the things we're going to share, the podcast. I want to change the industry. I want to bring it to, I want like-minded people. Obviously, I'm not looking for everybody to become part of the organization. And the organization's one thing, but the other side is the other open source information that we want to give to people that are just wanting to get started or learn about the business. That'll be available to them too. So I can't thank you enough for coming in and sharing that information. If you don't mind, I want just kind of off record, financial side. We'll set up a webinar and we'll get everybody and they can DM us for further messages. But I'm real interested on the film part because I thought that, because you're an actor, right? You did some acting?
I have done some acting.
I know. I'm not going to make it sound like you got a trench coat and you want to buy a watch. That's not the case. But if you don't mind, that because you're a part-time CTO, is that right? A fractional COO for right now?
So Desert Pines Capital, my parent level organization, owns 3 companies. One of them is the Guard Company, and one of the other ones is a fractional technology leadership company. So what we do is we provide fractional technology leadership to organizations seeking to improve or overcome significant technology challenges in their business today.
Fantastic. And then the hobbies of film?
Hobbies are music and film, yes.
Now you play saxophone.
I do. I played from quite a young age, approximately 10 years old, until I was about 20. In the 1990s, there was this thing called ska that came racing through Orange County, and I played on the ska circuit here in Orange County in the 90s. And then I put my horn down for more than 20 years. And then I was in Flagstaff. I found a flyer for a cover band, which was a band I had played with in the 90s, the actual real band I'd played with in the 90s. And so I messaged them and I said, hey, are you guys joking or are you actually a Real Big Fish cover band? And the lead singer said, can I call you? And he says, you actually know what we're doing? Like, you know this music? And I said, I met Aaron Barrett. I played with Aaron Barrett. He's the lead singer of Real Big Fish. I played with these guys. Yes, I know this music. And he says, great, will you come play with us in 30 days? We have a gig at the Gopher Hole in Flagstaff, Arizona. And I told him, I said, I haven't picked up my horn in 20 years. And he said, sure, but could you play in 30 days? And I said, I don't know. And so I ran off to the music shop. I rented a saxophone. He sent me the music, and within, I think, 2 or 3 days, I was already playing a dozen songs already.
Were you really?
Yeah.
That fast?
It came back very quickly.
Wow.
So I spent the next 30 days playing every single day for hours on end to get ready to play a gig with them. So I played a gig with them in Flagstaff, Arizona, and then they asked me to join the group, and I played with them for a handful of years all throughout Arizona and in Durango, Colorado as well.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Okay, so closing this out, what's your goal?
Yeah, goal, good question. And the movie part. So we'll back up to the movie part just for a second.
Let's do the movie thing.
So,
I didn't know if you wanted to go there. I didn't know if you had some special film on hold right now.
No, me and a handful of friends who have exposure to the film industry and to creative outlets decided to make a 48-hour film. And the Flagstaff International Film Festival hosted a 48-hour film project where you show up on a Friday. They give you a topic, a character, a prop, and a line of dialogue, and they say, we'll see you in 2 days with a film. We were then spent the next 2 days writing, shooting, editing, and submitting our film. And we had a great time. The festival director then came up to me afterwards and said, hey, Kevin, I like what you guys are doing. Will you please submit a film to our Flagstaff International Film Festival that's in August? And I agreed, but I didn't realize what I was signing up with just in that moment. But what we had to do was write and shoot and edit and submit a film in 40 days, and it was a 30-minute film. So my friends and I, we all got to work and worked like mad to get this film written and shot in that short 40-day period. And we did, and it went over quite well with the audience, a lot of laughs out of it. I didn't think it was that funny, but there were some good laughs in the community there, and then we submitted it to a handful of other film festivals across the country. We won our category at least one of them, and yeah. It's a little bit about the film stuff.
Wow. Saxophone player, filmmaker, actor, security company. The security thing, I just don't get
it doesn't sound nearly as cool, does it?
No, we ruined it. Should have gone the other way around. But all right. And then, again, your goal, closing. I know it's investment. Your goal is to help or buy additional companies or help companies, one of the two.
My goal is really around growing small business in the community. Right now, there are behemoths of organizations, and we all use them, right? We all use Amazon. We all use Walmart. We all use Target. And these behemoths provide a tremendous value to us as consumers, right? They bring us products at very reasonable prices. However, small business in America is the heartbeat of Main Street. And for me, it's important to keep that alive. So I'm interested in what I call entrepreneurship acquisition, or acquisition entrepreneurship. And what that means is that I'm seeking to buy organizations that are doing something positive in their community, whether it's providing guard services or cutting hair or providing fractional leadership to small business in the community. I want to buy those companies and help grow them and increase their value in the neighborhood.
Great. Sounds like a great goal. And I love the direction you're going, and obviously that's why we're talking. So I look forward to sharing more with you and people that are watching today. So if you guys have any interest in learning more, please DM us, subscribe to a whole bit, and we'll have Kevin reach out to you if you need to. And we're going to have you back on another podcast real soon, and a webinar, if possible, if you're open to that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Appreciate you coming, Kevin. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you for your time.
You bet. Hey, everyone. No matter where you're watching from, if you get anything out of this, please like and subscribe. And most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a comment. Thank you for watching.